Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Normalized Money Show here at Katie's House Foundation, which is a nonprofit 501c3. And we offer beautiful, affordable, shared housing to people who are just starting out, starting over, or on a fixed income. And so today we have a very special guest. And before I introduce her, we do want to keep in mind that it is September 11th. And we have all of our fellow Americans and people from around the world in mind today, and then also all of the people who came to help on 9/11 so many years ago. So we will never forget, and we just really would like to keep that in mind throughout today's show. Also, keeping in mind that, we are speaking to teenagers on this show and also at-risk adults who are not making maybe a ton of money, but they're looking to improve their financial situation, as well as investors who help support the communities, and also political parties who make donations to Katie's House Foundation and also are in a position of helping their local corners of the world through either being a judge or a mayor or a nonprofit. So anyhow, we have a lot of people listening in. We've only had the channel for a couple weeks and we have hundreds of views. And so we would like to thank everyone who has been listening and also ask you to subscribe and to like and to share. That keeps us in with all of the YouTube algorithms. So thank you for liking and subscribing and listening in. So without further ado, let me introduce Jasmine Willois. Is that how? I always wonder, you have such a special last name. Can you share your name with us, share what you're working on, and let's jump right into your story.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, Kirsten. It's Willois is the last name, but let's not get caught up on that. Jasmine is great. First, before we get into too much, just thank you for taking a pause to recognize the September 11th. It's a very, very important day, not just for the country, but for a lot of us who actually spent time. So as I share my story, you guys will find out that I actually worked on the 75th floor there at the World Trade Center. And so barely missed this fate, and have a lot of friends that did not miss it and missed their fate. And then, a few that were just this close, right? Really got away from it. So it's a very emotional day for a lot of us. And it's very important that you do recognize and hashtag we will never forget. So thank you for recognizing that. A lot of us were impacted by that for sure. And those experiences, I think, that we're here to talk about, right? Those things that really affect us and keep with us, because that's what drives us and becomes our passions. And so, thanks for having me. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. Jasmine, I didn't realize that you had offices there. And being that today is 9/11, can you share with us, one, I guess it sounds like you grew up maybe on the East Coast. And so kind of where you started and then how those offices were impacted. And then how did you get to where you are today and what are you working on?
What's so funny? You and I know each other. We go way back. I don't know if the audience knows, but since we were young, we grew up in the same neighborhood. I've always been a bi-coastal child. So for those of you who are listening, I really wanted to be a part of this program because I wanted to reach people who were at risk. I was one of those children who, believe it or not, and I hate to say this, it's very rare I get to say this to people, but I was told, especially in the community that we relocated to, that I was not going to make it till I was 18. It was not going to be someone who's going to see my 21st birthday. And so that was just the betting, that's where society put their bet on me as a youth. Someone who's very active and very troubled. And so that you have two ways to process it, right? And so as I tell the story, the September 11th was just one of the many traumatic things that got me to where I am, but they continue to propel me. So if anything, before we get too much into it, if you're listening and you're going through some things, whether it's your parents are divorced and now you're shipped from this house to this house, there's a reason for it. All of that is going to just take it in. All that's going to really bring you such a unique insight that many people, once they become adults, could only yearn for, right? One of the things as children that we don't understand is a lot of us and the people that we envy, they have a really simple life. And there's a lot to be said about that, right? But there's also a lot of a missed opportunity when it comes to you having things very simple. And so always keep that glass half full, what you're going through, right? And so for me, I will tell you, yes, originally from New York City, but grew up in San Diego with Kirsten in a small town called Poway, not so small anymore, right? And so we moved from the Bronx, 1975 Bronx, for those of you guys are aware. And I want to take a pause there because if you are listening and anything about me resonates, right? Look up what was going on in the Bronx in 1975, because maybe that's what's happening in your neighborhood, right? I know I'm familiar. You mentioned Alabama. I'm very familiar with Alabama. I've done a lot of work out there, and I know there are some troubled neighborhoods. So Bronx 1975 is not the gentrified place it was today. This is a community that if you look on the internet, it will tell you that the Bronx was burning. And so without getting too much into that, this is a society where you guys have heard about this, where the government was going in and burning down our buildings and then blaming it on us as if we were burning down our own places. So start from day one. I come from a place where they were infiltrating us with drugs, burning down our building, defunding our fire departments, redlining. Okay. Wow. So we went from a very diverse neighborhood. For those of you who have parents who are old enough, the Bronx, I mean, when it first started off, it was one of the most, and it was one of the cities that America envied as far as how diverse it was, and we all lived very happily. And so because of that, America went in and decided to pinpoint and destroy that. So it was done with intent. So when you look at that, you will start to realize part of my passion is, one, to make sure we all know, no matter what forces you have coming at you, right? Some of it could just be our parents. I don't want to say just, but it could be our parents. It could be our family. And then some of us actually feel like, and we're not being silly, but we have systematic oppression going on right now. Okay. And so it's a real thing. And the more I learn about it, because when you're young, you just kind of like, ugh. But the more I learn about it, I learn about these terms like redlining. I learn about these things that are actually working to keep some of us back. This is where people came to terms with their bet about us not making it 18, about what our future is going to be about, because just of our environment. It really was nothing personal. So if you're out there listening, don't internalize a lot of what these people don't know, because they don't know what they don't know. And one of the things they don't know is you, right? They don't know your resilience and what you can do to survive. So yeah, coming from the Bronx, 1975, wanted to get away from that. And we moved into a trailer park in a city called Poway. And that's where I actually met Kirsten. And so what a lot of people don't realize is living there was amazing to me. Coming from the Bronx to a mobile home, no matter what they thought about it in my town, which is a very, well-to-do, affluent neighborhood, it was like I was living in a mansion. This was the best thing for me. I loved my neighborhood. I was proud. So I don't know if you could speak to that, knowing where we grew up, right?
I mean, there's a couple things in there that I'd like to speak to.
Yes,
one, the whole idea of kind of what's put on individuals when they're growing up, because I do hear that when I travel too, is that, these 18-year-olds are not going to make it to 25. And I'm shocked by that kind of a statement, because I feel like that, maybe they are feeling like that, but also I feel like people are putting that on them, because you and I, having grown up in a trailer park, and we were very lucky that it was in Poway, California, which,
True.
We had good school districts, and we had a lot of things that maybe we wouldn't have had in maybe a food desert or somewhere where there wasn't any employment or something of that nature. I just feel like that, yes, what you said is they don't know you, right? And so that is such an important takeaway, is don't let anyone put anything on you like that. You have today, you have right now, you can meet a ton of people, you have the internet at your fingertips. And so what are you doing with yourself today and tomorrow? You can do anything that you want to do, kind of a thing. So let's keep going and talking about, today's 9/11 and your offices in 9/11 and how those were impacted.
Yeah, and if you're an adult out there listening, keep that in mind too, right? Don't say these things out loud, right? A lot of times we're just being practical and just statistics, but someone's listening, right? And so, yeah, definitely, I decided I wanted to get into the world of financing when I was young. And so again, don't put off your thoughts when you're young. Just go after them. I think I was about 11 years old, and I decided I wanted to be a stockbroker and started pursuing that. And in that, it's kind of tough when you have a lot of distractions at the house. but you definitely want to stay focused because, again, you know who you are and you have to somehow channel that and get it out to the world. And so that's what I was focused on at a young age. Started studying. To be honest with you, I had really good grades, right? School was really easy to me. So a couple of things. If you're out there, especially in an impoverished neighborhood, a lot of times your intellect is discounted. How about that? It's very much discounted in a lot of these communities. Okay, so if you find that you're smart, then that is the first key that you need to get off the streets and not be hanging out with every single Tom, Dick, and Harry, as I used to say when I was older. Okay,
I love that. I love that. Your intellect.
Yeah, sometimes it's discounted. So if you find that you like to read, it's okay, right? If you find that you're decent at math, then pursue that more, because this is a lot of times our way out. It's not always, as we're realizing now in this new society, it's not always a football, right? It's not always a baseball. It's not always your athletic talent that can get you out. So don't let other people discount your intellect. Found out that I was very intelligent, but I was also very restless. I'm from New York City, and I knew I had a lot of stuff to get along, a lot of burdens on me that I had to take care of my families and my siblings. Right? Not that my mom wasn't there, but as a single mom, if you were raised by a single mom, you understand what I'm saying, right? You're the oldest of the family. You understand what I'm saying. And so you carry a different burden. If I'm speaking to you correctly, you carry a different burden. And with that said, I knew that my mission had to be twofold. Make sure I get to my adult life, and two, make sure that my present life and the siblings I'm looking after are able to make it. So with that burden on, that's probably where they got a lot of that whole, you're not going to make it, because I was very restless. But my grades were pretty much intact. So keep your grades together. Don't let that slip. I graduated with 3.8. Okay. And that's not really to brag, because my kids, you never know. Your kids or your future, you never know. My kids have all outpaced me. My son has a 4.0. My daughter graduated 4.5. So understand, your intellect is just a glimpse into your future, right? You don't have to repeat where you're coming from. So yeah, got into to college. Ended up going, my first school was an HBSU. For those of you who want to, are really thinking about going to historically Black college, that was in my heart, right? You want to be with your people. Truth of the matter is, I found out that, as my boyfriend at the time told me, that, we're not all monolithic. And so you got to embrace that. And so part of my naivety as a youth was like, I want to go to HBSU because I'm just going to go be around all Black people, all brown people. Well, one, that's not who I saw myself as an adult. So think about that. And two, it wasn't all that I expected. And so just as every other culture has different people, we have different people in our culture. And it's okay for you to be that person. If you are listening, look up Sammy Davis Jr. He was very different, right? So we come in all different shapes. And he was known as a Republican, his different views. And so that's what I was exposed to. And it really opened my eyes to how wonderful we are as a community and how much we need to be heard from each side. So again, if you're out there and you think a little different than the crowd, you're supposed to, right? So embrace that. That's what's going to get you to that next level. And that's what got me to the next level. And found myself working on Wall Street. Got a degree in economics, an undergrad in industrial organization, and then a MBA. But the MBA came after I had my first child. So pace yourself. Do what your life has in front of you. I got my undergrad in economics and then left right back to New York City and started knocking on doors, in which I got picked up on Wall Street, worked for a small boutique firm, Joseph Stevens, and I was just a stockbroker. I don't even think that even exists anymore, but I just called people and trying to sell stocks. No financial plans, none of that stuff. You want to buy and make some quick money? I'm your girl. But yeah, after that, I got picked up by Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and things started getting a little more serious. And working for them as a financial advisor out of the World Trade Center, is where they held majority of our training. So if you ever worked for Morgan Stanley, you had your trainings out of the World Trade Center. And then, yes, I worked out of that building there. And so what saved me, by the grace of God, to get there and land this plane, if you will, is that, and all puns intended, I guess, but what saved me was that, and if she's out there listening, if you ever see this, there was a manager in San Francisco, a woman, talk about women's intuition. She called my boss and said, I want Jasmine to come work for me here in San Francisco. I said, I don't mind interviewing for that job. Okay. So I'm from the West Coast. I can do it. So I decided to go and interview for that job. We had a great interview. She gave me the position. I accepted it. And so at the time, my majority of my clients were athletes. So I worked with football players, okay, NFL players. And so every September 9th, if you guys are out there, you know when football season starts, September, right? Right. So September 9th, I'm at the Cleveland Browns, first game with one of my clients. After it, it's September 10th. 11th, I go to the airport to get out of town because I'm done and it's time for me to get back to work. By the grace of God, because I had an office in San Francisco to report to, I sat there at the counter and I said, where should I go? Should I go to New York City or should I fly to San Francisco? And again, follow your intuition. If your woman is really strong. And what kept me from going to New York City at the time was I said, if I fly to New York City because I'm leaving, all my friends are just going to hang out and party and I'm going to get no work done. So again, sometimes listen to that disciplined piece of you. You don't always have to, revert to that childlike piece of you. You start to grow and you start to mature. Listen to that mature side of you. And so instead of going to New York City to party with my friends who are not going to let me get any work done because I'm leaving, I flew to San Francisco where I said, okay, at least I'll get some work done. And that is when, if you're familiar with downtown San Francisco, the financial district, when I ascended from the BART train to the financial district right in front of my building, I noticed that the second plane was crashing into the building.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that must have been really hard in the moment.
Yeah. But yeah, we've all learned a lot from it, and basically at the end of the day, if you heard and pieced together the story, it'll make a lot of sense of where I am today and why I'm here today. And I am a general manager, a general partner, I should say, to a $50 million fund. It's our first of many funds that we've launched. And it's about a fund is a private equity investment that I cannot wait to expose more of us to. And private equity is a tool, one of many tools, like alternative investments, that the wealthy use to continue, not only extend and continue their wealth, but to pass it on through forms of passive income and things like that. So I'm excited to be here and talk to you. Thanks for listening. Just need a little bit of that 9/11 therapy.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard to, I think, go back to that moment, and there's not enough that we can say about remembering that. I do want to ask you a few things with regard to your high school years. And so if you can remember back to being 16 and 17 and 18 years old, I have two questions. Number one is, what did you do as a teenager to make money? And number two is, how did you get into college?
Wow, that's a dangerous question, right? But this is a real conversation, right? What did I do to make money when I was young? Gosh, all my friends will tell you, they will laugh. So I was a hustler. I'm from New York City. So a lot of things what I did was I'd buy something for cheap and try to sell it for more. And that is everything from candy, literally and figuratively. I would have some of my friends at the junior high school. I'd have their younger children, their younger siblings. I'd send them to school with candy and tell them to go sell it and bring the money back to me. So little did I know at the time that was my entrepreneurial spirit. But yeah, I would take, there's a store we had called Costco. Our parents would love it. So I'd have them buy us big things of candy. And they didn't allow us to have candy at school. It's part of the whole movement. If you remember, they were taking soda out of the schools and stuff because they used to have like soda machines in our school with full of like jolts and like just all the sugar you can have. And so anyway, so yeah, I'd send my mom would go to the store and she'd buy these big things of candy. And then I would either sell them at the high school to people, or I'd have, most importantly, my my friends' younger siblings. Do not go do this, people. I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I would have them go to the school and sell it, and they'd bring me the money back. And then I split the money with them. So, young entrepreneur, had a little workforce going. That was one of the things I did.
And then how did you get into college if you came from, a single family household? And was it through a scholarship of some kind with your 3.8 GPA or something else?
What's funny is no, it wasn't through a scholarship. Although there are a few out there. They were less known at the time. We didn't have the internet letting us all know about it. So unless you were part of like a Jack and Jill or someone, which I wasn't. Okay, I was the firstborn. So my siblings, they, if you're with me, they get to live that luxe life, right? They get to have an adult mom. So my mom was 18 when she had me. So we were both children. And so I wasn't part of any of these clubs. We were just winging it together. But my siblings, by the time my mom was 33 and had them, they were part of Jack and Jill and all these clubs. So no scholarships, even though I probably deserved some. What I did have was just help from the community. So so to speak, right? And so I had people help me fill out. I took on a lot of debt. I took on anything. I was not going to let anyone keep me away from it. So when you hear all this conversation about how they're going to help some of the Generation X with this college debt, that's me. But I knew that I needed to get to college to change my life. So no, it wasn't a matter of how much it was going to cost. It was just where was I going to find the money? So I worked multiple jobs, and I also took out loans, student loans. My mom was not able to help me. I knew that from the beginning, nor was my father. That was already on the plate from day one. So I took out as many loans as I could get, and then I worked multiple jobs. I was very, very much gainfully employed while I was in college. And then I also always had my side hustles. Again, would always have something. People would come to my room, truth be told, and buy NoDoz and those Z things where you couldn't go to sleep. So I'd go get them from Walmart. And then when everyone is freaking out in college, or about their final exams at the senior years in high school, they knew to call me and I'd sell them some NoDoz. And so they stayed up and they finished their classes. So that's the type of stuff I did.
Okay. Yeah, I know Red Bull is a big thing with the high school crowd these days, and Monsters and all this kind of stuff. And
Before that,
right? Yeah, I mean, this was way before that, but along those same lines. And, the people that we bring on at the channel here, and also that we house at Katie's House Foundation, which again, what we do is we buy houses or we arbitrage them. So we rent them and then we sublet the rooms. We find out that some of them, they had a fork in the road, if you will. And, talking on the idea of, for you went to college, but you still had this restlessness. And I think that's something that we see is when maybe they're an underdog and they have some restlessness and they're trying to make some money. And in high school, right, they want to buy a car, they want to do these things. And so the thing is if they don't find a trade school or a passion that they stick with, sometimes they fall into hardcore drugs or even selling drugs. And then eventually at age 30, that maybe catches up with them and they're coming out of the drug court or homelessness or, a victim of some type of trafficking or abuse. But I guess my question is, do you very clearly remember a fork in the road when you were between 18 and 25?
When between where I decided to do, can you just clarify the question, make sure I'm not making assumptions?
Yeah. So my question is between your, let's call it 16 to 20, actually. Let's go a little younger. Did you have a fork in the road where you said, okay, I know I'm restless. I know I've got to do some things. I know I want to go to college. What really made you decide that you were going to do that and go to college, take out the student loans, right? Work versus just staying where you were at?
Yeah. So if the question is bluntly, was there ever a fork in the road where I decided, what was that delicate balance between doing something way illegal, right?
Right.
And
that's the question.
Then, yeah, I mean, and being from the Bronx, you have that question very young age. I'm sorry to tell you, it's much earlier than 16, right? It's more like 10 and 8 when you're coming from those areas. So that's the first thing. So what I would say is this circles back to knowing who you are and understanding that they don't know who you are. So whether it's the government, whether it's your parents who's taking you for granted or reducing funding from you, whether it's your teachers, okay, who say you don't deserve the college or you're never going to get a 6-figure job or whatever it is, because college may not be that route. You know yourself. And so I did a lot of visualizations, okay? That's one of the things I was really good at, was always visualizing myself at a better place and knowing that I deserved it. Once I had a handle on that, then it was a lot easier for me to say, here's the line I'm going to walk and what I'm going to thread. I'm not going to do drugs, even though I hang around people who do them. One of the things that was very, very well known, I was well known for, was not doing drugs. Something that made a statement for me when I was young, someone told me this. Sometimes, Jasmine, it's not what you do that makes you who you are. It's what you don't do that makes you who you are. So again, some people are known for smoking. I'm known for not smoking. It's really that simple. So you're known for doing this. I'm known for not doing this. So that empowered me to go, hey, you can be known for many different things. Some people are known for drinking. She's known for not drinking. And so once everyone knows that, then the attitude turns into, hey, I'm not going to drink, but there's more for you because you're known for drink. So yay, more for you, right? Less for me. And so when it came to my social sphere, because I don't want to overlook that. When you're young, you're still doing that delicate balance. How do I still look cool, not getting into dangerous things and jeopardize my future? So start establishing at a young age who you are, being comfortable with that, letting the world know. They'll learn to accept you, because then there's also benefits to that. And so highlighting, because I don't drink, there's more drink for you. Because I don't drink, I'm the one who sobers drives. Someone's got to drive because I'm not doing drugs. I'm studying to go to be an attorney, and I can help everyone who may need me later. Things like that.
I love that. That's so cool to bring up and to talk about because it's so true. It's almost like a character. How do you see yourself, right? The drinker, the not drinker, doing the drugs or not doing the drugs. And those things definitely do define who we are. My husband doesn't drink at all, and he's always the sober driver, and we all know that, and we love that about him. And I think our teenage son, has adopted that in his teenage group. I certainly hope so. That's cool. So what do you think separates someone from being successful versus not being successful when it comes to business?
Yeah. I think the greatest thing about this podcast, if that's what this is that you are making me think that a lot of this is just boiling down to one thing. And so I'm going to circle right back to the difference of you being successful in business is really, again, of you knowing who you are. I cannot stress that enough because I've been through my ups and downs where I've let people determine who I am, and they've gone through me being the most successful person on Wall Street to me being not being able to be a mom, not having a mom, not being able to keep a plant alive, to me being the greatest mom. So listening to them will drive you crazy. We'll do the same in business, right? Not just because you don't really have time to listen to people when you're running a business that will distract from you, but because businesses are so dynamic that there's enough going on in a day-to-day to give you a complex if you let it. So you're going to need to know who you are when you wake up in the morning and saying, I'm ready to go get it. When I wake up in the morning, almost 9 times out of 10, in my mind, I say, good morning, devil. Because I know that when my feet hit the ground, it's like, yep, trouble's awake. More trouble than you're ready for today. And that's just I joke with myself with this every morning. Good morning, devil. Smack my feet on the ground. I just feel like he's ready. Here comes Jazz, right? And so knowing who you are and what you're going to bring to the world, because your competition will always try to play that meta game with you. And for a lot of us as minorities and women, our competition are going to be men, are going to be people with privilege. And so, I was just rewatching that match with Coco. I don't know if you guys can even go there, but not the most recent one that she won, but the one where the other young lady was taking her time and stalling out the match. That was all mental game. This was a 29-year-old grown woman doing a mental game on a 19-year-old, unfair, uncalled for. She thought we weren't going to see it. So that doesn't stop. So what I can tell you, if you want to be successful in business, have your mental games together every day with your affirmations. I've learned that it's best to say your affirmations before you go to bed, not in the morning. So say them before you go to bed, so that when you go to sleep, that's when your psychic is working the hardest, your psyche. And then get up in the morning and just, again, define what you're going to do. Even if it was a bad day yesterday, today's a new day. And that's what's going to separate you. Because what I would say lastly is that I meet people that are, yes, smarter than me, even more wealthy than me, and they're either miserable. And I'm not sure how you get to be miserable when you have this type of money, but it's possible. It's because they are not comfortable with who they are and what they've accomplished or why they've accomplished it.
So I have another question, and that is, how do you personally deal with setbacks? Is there a coping mechanism that you have because it's not doing drugs and alcohol? What is your coping mechanism?
Yeah, funny thing is, and that's a great question. And let me be 100% forthright by saying at times when I was young, that was it. As someone who knew who they were, eventually you look yourself in the mirror and you go, this is not who I am. So again, going back to that, know who you are, and you will get through your ups and downs. And sometimes you're going to get weak and you say, let me have a drink. So how do I do it now? Now I love jogging. So first of all, finding out what you love to do. I don't get to do it that much, and I'm not that good at it, but I love getting out and being active. I love starting to sweat. The feeling after it is amazing. So if I'm really angry, you'll find me jogging. So that's what you can say, oh, Jasmine, you had a bad day today, right? So I'll get out and start jogging. I also like to talk to people who understand, right? So there's a few select people who understand the mission, right? I just had my 30-year high school reunion. I'll keep the story quick, but one of my best friends, we had a heart-to-heart, and she said, well, why did we kind of fall apart after high school? And it was really simple. It's because in high school, we're all young, and I could forgive a lot of the things, the discretions and misdiscretions that you had. But as I got older, things started meaning more to me, right? This is my future. I had my first job on Wall Street. You may not understand what that means, but as me, I was the first one in my family, right, to get out to Wall Street and do things like this. So when certain rules were put in place. If you couldn't abide to them, then I had to respect that on your end, and we had to separate. So, but again, that comes to you just knowing who you are. So my coping mechanisms, they have evolved over time. So if you find yourself doing unhealthy things, just again, focus on knowing who you are and then looking at yourself and saying, is this who I want to be? Every time now, when I go out and someone says, hey, do you want to drink? It's funny because 9 times out of 10, I say no, because I'm realizing I'm just drinking because you asked me for one. Didn't want one 10 seconds ago. And so I only drink to be social, and I feel like I'm being social as it is. So I don't need one, and sometimes that slows me down. But anyway, find yourself, I believe, first, and then some of the habits that you're doing will slowly start to just not feel right, and then you'll start kind of dissipating.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And let's talk about what else you were doing and how you and I came to working together as adults, because even though our families knew each other, we were a couple doors down from each other in the trailer park. And, you're a little bit older than me. God brought us back together as it relates to real estate, mortgage, investments, and things like that. And so we got together through the Note Assistance Program. And I love that you offer the Note Assistance Program and teach people about how to be the bank. And so would you real quickly share that website? Just, is it the noteassistanceprogram.com? Yep,
Yeah,
noteassistanceprogram.com.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. So noteassistanceprogram.com. That is my passion project. Something I've done for the past 10 plus years, call it 12 actually. Since then, I have evolved, and as you may see on the screen, I'm a general partner for a $50 million fund, of which we actually manage the assets that we teach you how to monetize at the Note Assistance Program. So what does that mean in plain English? I actually buy mortgages from banks. So if any of you have ever had a mortgage or ever considering having a mortgage, or say, hey, how do I buy a house if I don't have the money? Well, you use a mortgage, right? And you get a loan from the bank. Once the bank underwrites that loan and gives it to you, all the paperwork that's done, they put into a folder, and then they get a call from an investor like myself and say, hey, how much for that loan? Because I'm now interested in either collecting your payments, your mortgage payments, which in my opinion, as a more seasoned investor, I would prefer to collect your mortgage payments rather than rent from someone, right? I believe renters are a little more fickle and less stable than someone who wants to keep their home. So I have woken up and said, hey, I want to start collecting mortgages all across America, and that's what I want to live off of. And so as a visual for your kids out there, this is how I think about it, okay? I'll talk to you real quickly. This is how I think about it. If you start learning to acquire mortgages, then all over America, people are going to get up first thing in the morning, get dressed, and go to work so they can work very hard to do what? To pay their mortgage, AKA you, so that you do not have to get up early in the morning, brush your teeth, and rush to a job, right? And so that's what I plan to share with everyone, one note at a time. That Note Assistance Program is where I talk to you about the underlying asset. What is a mortgage? How do you own it? How do you acquire it? What's a responsible way to handle it, whether it's performing or non-performing? Once you understand that, then you may have a lot more money and you may be looking to put that to work for you. That's when you can start talking to me about investing into the fund. It's a passive income fund that is backed by those mortgages. So within that, once you give us the money, we go and buy to the tune of $50+ million worth of mortgages from the banks, just like the funds on Wall Street, except we're bringing that to you guys. We're bringing that to your mom, to your dad, so they can now get access to this passive income through private equity that was lastly normally reserved for the affluent.
I love that. And let me, if you don't mind, I'm just going to try and break that down a little bit more, since I normally teach to, I have the Normalized Money Project, which was a night class for teenagers, and how I, would like to just share that with any teens or maybe their parents that are listening. First and foremost, we were sharing with you, Elios, is that how you pronounce it? Elos Capital Group.
Yes, ma'am.
And then noteassistanceprogram.com is where you would actually get involved to learn. So increasing your education from very early age. What's the earliest student that you take there at the Note Assistance Program? 18?
I've had a 16-year-old as the youngest, and so they must be with their parent. But yeah, you'll be surprised what the affluent do with their children. I won't say who it was, but the more affluent the parents are, the more likely they are to get them involved with this type of education.
And 16 is great because people, teenagers, I have a 16-year-old, that's definitely when he's looking to buy his car and to make money and start doing things on his own. And I noticed in my class, just side note real quick, that affluent parents did send their kids to the Normalized Money Project Night School about financial literacy, but it was a free class. And this channel is supposed to be, free intentionally to offer financial literacy. So even though we have a special guest like Jasmine blessing us with her time, please subscribe and like, so that way your teenager and you and everyone gets this free financial literacy. And so what I'm telling you is that you can actually take a class from Jasmine from the Note Assistance Program and learn how to buy a mortgage note. This means that you could take, let's call it $40,000 out of your self-directed IRA, which Jasmine will help you with. So you've got money sitting aside, and maybe it's not making you money during this time of inflation where your groceries are costing so much and things are going up. And if you have that money just sitting there and you were to reach out to Jasmine and Note Assistance Program and learn about how to actually pick up a mortgage note somewhere in the country that's maybe returning 8% interest, and there are there's a title company and somebody who escrow, and they collect your payments, and this money returns to you. And so this is the stuff that Jasmine is talking about that is not normally shared with the mom and pop and their kids. And so I hope that you guys will go to her website and learn about that first and foremost. And then if you are an investor, it looks like your fund the minimum investment is 100,000. Is that correct?
Yeah. And let's talk about that real quickly, because I think this is amazing to kind of really circle back to where we came from. And so you and I found each other back because of our passion to empower, right? Not just women and minority, but also to educate children. And so first thing is understanding what it's like to be a creditor and being on that flip side. That's one of the things that we came back. You and I both worked in the financial services industry for a long time, and no one told us about this other side of it, right? And so we had to find out the back end of this business on our own. And now that we've got exposed to it, that's what this is about. So 100% the noteassistanceprogram.com. Go ahead and check it out. And just came to mind right now, so if you don't mind me sharing, I want to make space for 2 of your students in my program. If they're willing to come by and spend the time, I don't mind trading with them. So you'll have to go through Kirsten and make sure that they are very worthy of the time they're going to spend with them, because normally the program at minimum is going to be $4,000 to get involved, right? And so if there are any people out there watching, they want to donate to make sure we have other classes available for students, then 100% let's do it. But I'm ready to commit to having at least 2 slots open for your students who are ready to learn more about this.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. Can't thank you enough. So you guys, if there's a few of you on, 2 of you, please, do that. Do not wait any longer. Be the first person, especially if you don't come from an affluent family and you're just thinking like, how am I going to change where I live, right? So anyhow.
What I will tell you is this. Can I just say this real quickly? Modeling is so important, and we're learning this more and more and more. You're seeing it if you saw the movie Barbie and everything else, and it's all about having representation. So this is what's important, is I had to have someone, right, who's willing to reach back to educate and spend time with a little girl from the Bronx. So if you're a little girl, little boy from Alabama, that means more than you know, okay? And now you have an opportunity if someone's going to put some time. So if this is not the moment for you, the main thing is look for people who are willing to help. Okay, that is one of the differences. If you are not a professional yet, and even if you are a professional, you're looking to get to the next level, look for your next mentor. Mentorship is very important, and not all the time is a paid mentorship. So hopefully that leaves you with some good stuff.
All right. Well, that is great stuff. And the fact that you would be a mentor to 2 people listening in right now is really a blessing. So on that note, we are going to go ahead and let everyone get back to their days. And, like you said, what do you say when you get up in the morning? Something about the devil.
Yes, here I come, devil.
What's that?
Here I come, devil. Here I come.
Here I come, devil. Today's not the day. Today is the day. Yeah, today is the day. All right. So thank you very much, Jasmine, of the Note Assistance Program. And also, Elios Capital Group. And for everyone who's listening in, if you need affordable shared housing, roommate housing, co-living, or, you know, you can apply on our website if you actually need the housing at katieshousefoundation.org. If you are an investor and you want to learn about taking one of your actual properties, whether that's an Airbnb or a vacant property or an REO that you had to take through foreclosure and now you're not sure what to do with it, you know, definitely jump onto katieshousefoundation.org and you can look into taking our shared housing class. That's also an e-learning class. And so thank you again for listening. Please subscribe and check in with us every single day or week to get free financial literacy and lift up your family and your community. Jasmine, have a great day.